Ignore my voice. This is like the fourth time I've tried to make this video. I am so screwed. This is sort of a part 2 to the last video I made, as well as a part 2 to FNAF's latest theory, which should be listed in the eye above, and ID's Fantasy's current idea of what's going on. I am in a sort of fusion here. FNAF just made one of the best videos I have ever, one of the best theories I've ever heard, and that is because he's noticed something that none of us have noticed, and that's the power of the books, okay? The Silver Eyes trilogy happens to very much replicate what occurs inside a Security Breach, but real quick, I want to take a note that I was one of the first people that said FNAF World was connected to Security Breach Ruin. Even though FNAF didn't make a video on that, Rytoast seems to be making a video on it because he also came to this conclusion. I found it out day one, so hopefully no one ends up trying to claim that I stole that idea from anybody. I was one of the original people. The moment I saw glitches inside of Security Breach Ruin on day one, I knew there was some connection to FNAF World, so the fact that I'm really happy that it is one of the most popular theories going on inside the community right now, and so many more conclusions have come from it, like the Red Lake being associated with Old Man Consequences Lake. At the bottom, it's at the deepest level of the Pizzaplex, deepest level of the flip side. That's where Old Man Consequences Lake is, and if you jump into the lake, you see Golden Freddy falling and glitching red just over and over again, which is similar to the way in which Cassie ends up getting into the elevator. When the elevator's falling, it's blinking red. Just found that to be a huge connection between the two, so now I really do think FNAF World is connected with Security Breach Ruin. But in the video, I brought up how there is a timing problem, because at the time, I thought FNAF World has to take place after the events of FNAF 3 or FNAF 6. One of those two has to be when Happiest Day takes place in FNAF World. I think I'm wrong. I think that is why Scott Cawthon never confirmed it, because I thought it was stupid. I thought if FNAF World is a canon game, then that means Happiest Day is canon. But I was wrong about timing. I don't think Happiest Day was canon in the original story yet. I think it is now being retconned, well, not necessarily retconned, but I think it's being shifted into canon now. I think FNAF World is becoming a canon game now, and I think Security Breach Ruin has made the game officially canon, because I think FNAF is actually correct on this, and that Security Breach Ruin is following a pattern of the Silver Eyes trilogy, in which, go and watch his video. I'm not going to steal his content. You can already find out all of his conclusions. Watch his video, please. I'm just adding on to his thoughts right there. I will bring up ID's Fantasy's theory at the moment real quick, because this is what made me realize that Happiest Day might not have happened yet, and that's because I believe Cassie really is connected with not Cassidy, but rather Charlie, because I think originally Cassie was intended to be Cassidy and or associated with Vanessa, because both characters are sort of representatives of Princess Quest, and I think that's originally what Ruin was meant to be. It was going to be about Princess Quest, but I think it switched. I think now it is reflecting a different story, because just like how Security Breach switched its story, I think that's the reason why she ended up switching from being blonde to brunette. I think that was an intentional change, because Charlie is now who Cassie is representing, no longer being Cassidy. With that being said, the reason I say that is because in the Brazil ending, we see 5 balloons floating inside of the sky, representative of Happiest Day, in which we see 6 balloons floating, with the marionette's mask falling slower because it had to stay behind to save the rest of the souls. Now, if there are 5 balloons flying inside of the Brazil ending, which is meant to be an interpretation of Cassie losing her mind, then that most likely means Happiest Day at the point of Ruin has not happened, because this feels like an intentional detail. I know to some that might seem like a stretch, but I truly do think that the fact that there are 5 balloons floating, like the 5 souls separate from Cassie, that ended up getting released at the end of Happiest Day, the fact that they are showing up inside of the Brazil ending implies that this event isn't canon before Ruin. But I think Ruin is setting up for Happiest Day to end up being canon. Because, as it currently stands, I am a firm believer that we do have a Nightmarion possessing the Pizzaplex, the original spirit of Charlie. I think that Cassie is associated with Charlotte in some sort of way, whether she's taking the job of Charlotte in this modern day timeline or whatever it is. I think she's associated with Charlotte in some way. And then we have the Mimic, which is meant to be a robot recreation of Charlotte, just like FNAF has been promoting for a while now, and as I brought up in my last video, I think that is currently correct on what's going on with the series right now. I think that the Mimic, who ends up being Baby, really is a version of Charlotte as well. And the reason I say that is because I think I have a pretty good idea on what's going to happen inside of the next game, and in order for you to understand that, you have to look at the fourth closet. Nobody has been looking at the fourth closet. I just had to go back and watch the fourth closet after listening to FNAF's video because it gives us a pretty good idea about what's going to happen in the next game. The reason I bring that up is because, yes, the fourth closet does bring Circus Baby's Pizza World back to life, and so I have to question, there's one of two paths here. Either Help Wanted 2 will go over back during the 80s, because as we know, the lunchboxes were collected by Cassie's dad, so that most likely means he was alive during the 80s. So by that interpretation, it's either implying that Cassie's dad is in fact one of the technicians that went to Circus Baby's Pizza World back when Circus Baby's Pizza World was actually open, or Circus Baby's Pizza World is going to end up reopening in this modern timeline. Now that the Pizzaplex is destroyed, it leaves open space for, just like the original Circus Baby's Pizza World, to be reopened. But that's here nor there. If you don't know, inside of the fourth closet, in the last book, we end up having Charlotte end up dying. And in the new book, the fourth closet, we end up seeing a version of Charlotte still alive. We end up finding out that this is actually Circus Baby. Circus Baby, when she was built, the fourth version of Charlotte, she ended up getting kidnapped by William, and she's the one that went on to scoop Elizabeth. Their two minds fused, and as FNAF is currently theorizing, is that the two end up splitting again, in which the mimic virus Charlotte, she is still around, left inside of the bunker, while Elizabeth ended up getting inside of Ennard with the rest of the fun times to escape back then. If that's the case, there are other fun times that physically did not escape during Sister Location. A lot of people forget about that, but Yendo, the Biddy Baps, the Mini Renas, there are characters that are still down inside of the bunker, so it's not too far-fetched to believe that there could be the Mimic down there, especially thanks to the addition of the Scooper. It really does imply that this was the bunker of Circus Baby's Pizza World. But if that's the case, then I think that Help Wanted 2, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue with the books. If you don't know, inside of the books, after that, John gets really suspicious, ends up saying, "You're most likely not Charlie," but he needs proof. Well, he ends up finding the real Charlie, and while this is going on, Carlton and the rest of their friends, they end up following this baby version of Charlie into Circus Baby's Pizza World, in which they find out that Afton is still alive, giving life to the Funtime animatronics thanks to an amalgamation of the original MCI kids who end up attacking Carlton and all of them. Afton ends up injecting Carlton with remnant of the original MCI, in which he ends up entering this ghost world and talking to the children, and he ends up helping them put the pieces together to realize Afton is the villain, not somebody worth saving, in which they end up grabbing him and throwing both the amalgamation and Afton into the flames to burn. Does that sound familiar? Dude. While the burn trap ending is no longer canon, I believe in the current timeline, I think it was retconned into not happening yet, because it was originally referred to as true ending. I'm pretty sure I also heard somewhere that there were other things referred to as true ending. I don't know what the validity of that is, but I know that that was referred to as a true ending. And if that's the case, I think that ending, just like a lot of Security Breach stuff has been shifted, that originally switched from being an original ending to Security Breach to actually being the ending of Help Wanted 2, because I believe Help Wanted 2 will most likely go over Cassie's dad going to sister location, in which we're most likely going to either get a post-game content or we're going to get a DLC showing Gregory take the place of Cassie's dad going down into the sister location bunker, showing us these fun-time animatronics that are possessed using the remnant from the Blob, an amalgamation of all of the souls, and having Afton down there controlling everything, controlling the Mimic. We're going to see the Mimic most likely end up dying, caused by the marionette that's possessing the Pizzaplex, having the original Charlie kill this other version of Charlie. And I know that in the books technically it wasn't the original Charlie, but it would be having both Charlies kill each other off, and then having Gregory go and put the pieces together for the MCI children in order for them to realize, hey, this is Afton, just like what FNAF World and FNAF 3 was the purpose of, the pieces put together. And then having them take Afton out in a burn trap ending, but for Help Wanted instead, and then having Gregory and Cassie stand in front of Charlie's grave, having Cassie represent the version of Charlie that showed up at the end for John. It would be a perfect representation of the books, or a recreation. It would be amazing. It would give a proper ending to all of the characters that are currently still alive, everything, and it technically wouldn't end the series because there would be still a lot of questions unanswered, but it would end up ending the main story if this is a reflection of the books. And I think it would actually be pretty amazing because it would make Happiest Day be a canon event to the modern timeline instead of the past timeline, explaining why Scott never said that Happiest Day was a canon event. I actually love this theory. Obviously, this means I have to go back to my own timeline and switch things, but I want you guys to just think about this. I think that it's pretty convincing on what's going to happen in Help Wanted 2, but let me know what your opinions are or any other connections that you guys happen to see in the comments below. But remember, it's just a theory, a game theory. Thanks for watching. Matane.